Hello everybody, this is Stingray coming at you live from San Antonio, Texas.
Drive 9.1 miles.
I'm on the way back home right now. Got my traffic avoidance feature kind of in charge, or at least being the co-pilot of the dreams that I'm sharing with you today. And today I want to talk about spelling or casting spells. And the word that I want to conjure up and dissect so that we know the ingredients of it is Con-Servation. Now I'm going to make up a word for the purpose of spelling. I'm going to make up a word called
Prepare to exit the highway at exit 556A in 1.4 miles.
Servation.
Accident ahead on I-10 between exit 557 and Zavala Road.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn off since basically, well, actually, I'm going to leave it until the next main highway so that I know the exit. But to get back to the topic we were talking about, the word servation, we're going to make it up and pretend it's a real word. And that would mean, let's define servation first. Servation would be the serving of somebody or something else, or being in the state of serving. And con, of course, means to swindle. A situation which is increasingly frequent even among family and friends. Con, to swindle one another. Now, it happens frequently enough that I can tell you that in my own proximity at any given point in time, if I'm with friends or family, there's going to be some incident that was touched by some kind of swindle. Whether it was someone trying to get a fast one in when someone passed away and make a grab for their property and possessions,
In a quarter of a mile, keep right onto Texas
or
1000
whether we just trusted
westbound.
our intuition. So, on that note, I'm going to turn off the distraction so that you can focus on what I'm saying, the same as I'm focusing my attention on you, helping you to have a better day, because I'm having better days. How do I share that information? How do I share the way that it was that made me happier? Well, I find different ways of servation so that I can serve that up to you. And today, like I said, we're talking about spelling, this is almost in direct response to something that someone sent me recently, which I have not watched entirely, I'll be honest with you. But its sole purpose is to talk about witchcraft and sorcery. It's got good intent. And so does my word that I'm conjuring up for you to dissect today, called Con-Servation. In the process of spelling, we've already defined servation as serving one another. It's kind of a put together, spliced word, and that's just about all we have to agree upon right now. The other things we have to know that are true are that the other part of the word con means to swindle. So, when you think about the word conservation, let me ask you, do you recycle your goods? Do you put your items that are recyclable in the appropriate receptacle for processing? Whether or not that processing is occurring properly in your community or not, if you have that option, do you go the way of conserving by putting things into the recycle bin? And then, do you only do so based on what you're seeing? In other words, are you only going to the store and still buying pallets of bile, buying pallets of water in plastic bottles because, of course, you have a receptacle to put those bottles into? Con-Servation. If you're serving a con, you may not know you're being swindled. The ultimate recycling challenge would be to not purchase and continue the votes in favor of the rubbish that's being generated to begin with. When I think about spelling, I'm going to go ahead and apply a broad term and suggest that the servation of one another to our nation might have started as early as when we began to pledge allegiance. I'm not trying to go against our history of wartime heroes and veterans. What I'm saying is there also is a time of need for not being at war. And so just for the purpose of observation, we're dissecting a word called Con-Servation. We're talking about spelling, and I'm suggesting that I am talking about this topic because recently I was sent something that was talking about sorcery or witchcraft. Sorcery and witchcraft are powerful things. They can spoil a situation greatly when fear pervades any circumstance. And when you get a gaggle of spellcasters together, they'll resonate in each other's favor. And they'll often do so based on the influence of a male counterpart. So there might be warlocks if there are witches and spelling. And there also might be this thing called free will, where you either are open to hearing words, which are just words. They don't control you. You may be controlled by some words if you pledged allegiance to something that takes priority over real meaning, such as how is the word conservation not catching on more brightly? How's that fire not being lit more properly? I mean, you tell me, who's serving who? Is the plastic serving us, or are we serving the plastic? To me, it feels like we're serving the plastic. And I say that because during my walks at my favorite places of nature, could be anywhere, I see a lot of evidence that we have classes on conservation. We have classes and they're taking some kind of effect because those classes are leading to class action, whether it's in the form of lawsuits or waste receptacles that say waste and recycle, or trash and recycle. Sometimes things are indistinguishable from one another. Con-servation, spelling, sorcery, witchcraft. Sometimes things are not quite believed in, but they're actually practiced. Sometimes imagery can do a lot of things to someone and their psyche. Even the very pendant that I'm wearing today could cause some people to think certain things. The pendant I wear tomorrow could cause people to think certain things. Conservation and the way that I deciphered it could cause people to think certain things. The only question is if, when that person thinks, they are anxious or not. Are you anxious when I talk about dissecting words for the purpose of casting spells? Do you get nervous when I talk about habits becoming addictions? Do you get nervous when I talk about breaking addictions by fasting? Do you get nervous? Do you have anxiety? Are you taking prescription medication that you might be able to do without? If only you prioritize things in the most efficient manner, in the way that causes you the most proficiency. I'm going to tell you a story. It has to do with a toddler and his nightmares. The toddler told me one time that things were coming out of his closet and he wanted to build a trap to make sure to catch all these things in the act of coming out of the closet so that he was not caught off guard, so that he wouldn't be surprised by the monster coming out of the closet. And so I helped to build this trap, not really thinking about the conversation all that much. In other words, I wasn't thinking on a philosophical, psychological type level. Had I been, I would have recognized that this child was talking about things that he was having happen in his sleep. He's having nightmares. And I could have soothed him quite a bit more if I was quicker to catch it. But as I helped him build his trap, he was still talking through the situation, which was also quite effective because I was talking to him from a place of curiosity. I also, being a kid, was helping to build the trap, but his ideas were they were often far superior to my ideas. He was still thinking with the pure innocence of a child. And so his ideas were amazing. They were astounding. So I'd compliment him on that, and I helped him build the trap. And I told him that we were going to be able to catch whatever monster this was. And he said, if I was in the room, since I was so big and tall, I could beat up the monster. I felt honored. This kid had also not too long from that same period of time complimented my guitar playing, which, I think it's okay. But this kid told me on a scale of 1 to 10, I played at a 16 million. Now, that and the fact that this kid was telling me I'm so big and tall and strong, he said, you're so big and tall and strong, you can beat up that scary monster. I said I would if I caught it, but first I would try and talk with it to find out why is it scaring my friend. So we had a conversation, and I saw I didn't think about that. I didn't think about talking to the monster. So like I said, indirectly, even though I wasn't in psychological, breakdown mode, not that I'm a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor, but I have stayed at one of those fancy Hotel Inn Expresses. It used to be a joke when people remembered the commercial. I'm not a doctor, but I stayed at a so-and-so express. That was kind of the joke, but because it was funny. It's like you were so refreshed that you could think in terms of, what would a doctor do? That's the same in terms of what I'm telling you with regard to spelling and the word conservation. What would someone who is really trying to conserve do? Would they just put things in the recycle bin? Or would they try to search for the clear alternative, which was replacing that detrimental substance from existing to begin with? Sometimes you have to talk it out and talk to the source of the problem, whether it's a monster in the closet or a plastic bottle on the trails or a pill that continues to replace other pills. It's just levels of self-control. And when you're around people who don't have self-control, you can be an enabler or you can be a life changer in someone's life. And so that's what we do. We're in a state of servation among one another, whether we're selling guitars or writing songs or riding the freeway. Riding. There's so many ways you can think of riding, aren't there? And I hesitate to tell you that you might have chuckled at some of those variations, but you may be bristling at the very word conservation. And the fact that I'm telling you, buying our old produce the same way that we always have been, as taught to us by our fathers over and over and over, just might need to be evaluated a little bit further. Sure, our fathers are amazing. Doesn't matter which variation you might have heard me say that as. It does matter whether you bristle at it or not. If you're bristling, you may be on a programmed state of subconscious level where you can't quite bring yourself to feel like you can let this person's words be true. They are true. But sometimes people feel forced to accept those truths only if they're denying simultaneously something in their heart so that they can hold on to a set of ideals that might not be as true as everything else that you would claim to live up to. Would you back me up if I asked you, ladies, if I asked you, for every lady out there who's watching this, click on the like button if you're even watching this. If you don't like this, you can click on the unlike button right after. But I'm asking you as a favor, click on the like button if I've caused any kind of concern with you, and you can also say, you know, Ray, even though you caused me anxiety, I know from the stories you've told me that your dad threw you into a tub head first when you were 2 years old because you wet yourself. And that from that point in time, Ray, I understand how you could mistrust adult human beings. I feel your pain. I too have been hurt in my past. I too understand pain, Ray. So I'm going to click on like because I know I hear what you're saying. You're not in pain anymore. You're just saying this is an example of why you perceive things the way you do. You're right. I'm only talking about my perception. So if talking about my perception causes anxiety in anyone, consider clicking the unlike button if you think it's me that's causing the anxiety. If you think back to the overall of what I've just said, and remember, you have the free will to click on like, unlike. I encouraged you to do it if you chose to do so. And to leave it exactly where you felt necessary. And I also encouraged you to think just one level more and say, hey, has Ray threatened me today? Or is he telling me there's a possibility that some words that we subscribe to strongly, even in the forms of the names of our fathers, might be just slightly bent, like the neck of a guitar, just slightly bent to where the strings sing out a little bit off. And so that's why in this life, we need to be working with one another. I'm not a luthier. I don't even know if that's how you say the word. Luthier, one who works on guitars. I'm not the most versed linguist, but I'm not the most worst linguist either. I just so happen to be the worst one that you're listening to who is versed. And so you wait to hear everything that comes out of my lips that are pursed. You might even think some of this is rehearsed. But I would have to tell you, listen to your heart first. And listen to that ego burst. Oh man, that quenched my thirst. I bet you thought I was done there, didn't you? So, again, I'm having fun. My life is great. I just saw something that's sad, though. This is the first roadkill garter snake that I've seen on this street. I saw so many lizards while I was hiking today. I fully expected to see a snake. I did not expect to see it as a roadkill. That is the same as being aware of conservation. You know, if I saw that snake crossing the road, I would have stopped. I would try to stop traffic. Some people don't. Some people speed up. I've heard of people swerving to hit turtles. That was the way that our fathers experienced life in the past. We, as the people who took a pledge, might look to the words that we're looking at with a little bit more scrutiny and decipher whether or not there have been spells cast over us to keep us asleep. Wow. I'm seeing I don't know what to call it, wine red. It's some kind of a Mazda. I would say it's a newer RX-7. It's like laser red. It's some kind of red that's a dark metallic red. It's beautiful. And anyway, the sky is blue, the clouds are out, the birds were singing. There's still a few less insects than normal, but just to end on a positive note, just so you know that I have hope, and I have hope for all of us. Just so you know, what I've been seeing in the decline of insects is that although there is a decline, there are still things that are persisting. And because of the great abundance of wildflowers that are out there, there is way more than enough food for the strong and the observant and the people who were just in the right place at the right time to persevere in order to see those few remaining insects carrying on what they're carrying on in the strength of true conservation without the con-servation. The butterflies are going around pollinating the flowers. They've got more than enough food to do it. They're having more offspring than they need to. And everything that was going to happen is going to happen the way it was going to happen. The only difference is, are your servation values cons, where you might feel a little bit awkward about some of the things that some people are saying, and you can't quite put a finger on it because it's not that person. You like that person. Otherwise, why are you looking at these long videos? You like this person. That's why I asked you to click on the like button, and also to share the video if you thought it was worthy of further discussion. There are a lot of things worthy of discussion, including whether or not purgatory is real. What do you think? Is purgatory real? How do you take these words? Is there a side you're taking? Do you know with absolute certainty? Or are some of the mysteries of the higher power mysteries until you really know for a fact? Who wrote the things that you are subscribing to, if not just another Joe? Ladies, I asked you for that favor to hear what I was saying earlier in the video, because ladies have more likelihood of understanding every word that's being said, even if they have to go back and replay it after the fact. In other words, you can recall memories really quickly and easily. Men, you might also be able to participate if you're not afraid, and I encourage you to do so. So do exactly the same thing as I asked the ladies, and also I'm giving a like to you right now. I like you for participating, because it's not everyone that participates. People sometimes in today's world believe that less participation means less likelihood that anything will ever trouble me and my day. And so, with all that being said, nothing is going to stop you on this day that you're watching this fantastically encouraging video. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for encouraging me, and thanks for helping me out along the way. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for caring. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff. And thanks again for helping me get to pretty close to, or all the way to 200 subscribers finally. It took a long time, but I feel that the energies are changing for the better for all of us. Peace.